Assault on the truth and democracy in American elections to prime time. MS Now is now reporting that Trump will deliver an address Thursday evening where he plans to unveil another round of lies about why he lost in 2020 to Joe Biden. This time claiming that newly declassified reports reveal foreign interference in that election that his own government didn't know about at the time. Lies that seem to conveniently obscure that he was the president of the United States. All of his handpicked people ran every facet of the government in 2020. His handpicked Attorney General Bill Barr ran the Justice Department. His handpicked replacement for Jim Comey, Chris Wray, ran the FBI. Both of them have repeatedly and publicly debunked these lies that there was any foreign interference. Trump's address will take place in prime time. It is likely to mark the start of releases of so-called evidence that everyone that worked for him in 2020 couldn't find, as Donald Trump makes it abundantly clear that there's no lever of national security power that he will not exploit and pervert to undermine our faith in our elections and our democracy, including these essential national security agencies. MS Now has exclusive reporting that details Trump's plans to use our national security apparatus and turn it into a propaganda machine for his election lies. Quote, a new White House task force reviewing thousands of pages of classified intelligence and law enforcement documents for evidence of irregularities in U.S. elections is expected to begin releasing documents within weeks, according to two U.S. officials with knowledge of the matter speaking to MS Now. The Office of the Director of National Intelligence, whose acting chief, Bill Pulte, has been accused by Democrats of politically weaponizing federal government information, will be part of this effort. Democrats say that Trump has placed Pulte in this position so that he can aid Republicans in the midterm elections and potentially limit voting by Democrats. The release of the documents appears to be part of a series of accelerating efforts by Trump and his aides to again question and relitigate the results of the 2020 election. Claims that widespread voter fraud occurred in the country and decreased public trust in the results of pivotal elections this fall that will decide control of Congress. This effort is not just isolated to Pulte's Office of the Director of National Intelligence. MS Now reports that it is part of a whole-of-government effort to try to subvert November's midterm elections, coming on the heels of Trump's weaponization of the Department of Justice and FEMA. One election protection advocate telling MS Now that local election officials must prepare now for a federal assault on our elections, saying this, quote, this is unprecedented, she said. If you had told me in 2010 that we would be having this conversation, I wouldn't have believed you. But we have to take this seriously, given events in 2020 and the president's focus on the fall.
Not only is the U.S. ramping up attacks on Iran, the American naval blockade on Iranian ports is about to resume, and President Trump says other ships will pay the U.S. a fee for safe passage through the strait. The president making that announcement today after the U.S. military says it struck dozens of targets in Iran overnight after Iran attacked a cargo ship over the weekend. This is new CENTCOM video showing a one-way sea drone attacking an Iranian port for the first time since the war started. All of this is pushing oil prices higher. It is up more than 8% today. Just moments ago, President Trump announced he plans to address the nation in a primetime speech Thursday night. That development coming just minutes after we learned that Trump formally notified Congress on Friday that U.S. military action against Iran has resumed.
So what we know right now is that these are intelligence and law enforcement documents that are classified that the administration is looking to declassify, that this White House task force is reviewing, searching for. They're looking for irregularities in the election, namely in the 2020 election, which, if that sounds familiar, it's because, as you know, the president has repeatedly lied about the 2020 election being rigged. Now, what we don't exactly know the timing of when they're going to start releasing these. It could be as early as this week. But one thing that I can say is that election security experts, election officials across the country that I've talked to have expected something like this to be coming for a while now, because they expected the administration, based on what happened during the president's first term, to dredge up old conspiracy theories, old intelligence assessments, and to try to make something of them. And so some of those conspiracy theories that they think the administration may bring back up again has to do with Venezuela interfering with voting machines, which was something that has been debunked. There's also the question of China influence or interference, which, again, the intel community assessed at the time in 2020 and 2021, and they found that there was no interference against President Trump in that election. And I was just talking to a former senior national security official who served during the first Trump administration, who told me that all credible threats and intel were looked into deeply, were combed over aggressively, and made a pretty salient point, saying that at the time, John Ratcliffe was the director of national intelligence, and he had all of this same information, and still there was unable to provide legitimate evidence of a massive influence and interference campaign that swayed the 2020 election.
So if you're talking about how you actually achieve that, when we speak with former government officials who say, it's not, they haven't dealt with this exact situation, but they have game planned it in the past for how you would overcome Iran controlling the strait. And it involves U.S. boots on the ground, seizing quite a bit of land into Iran, and then boots on the ground to hold that land and secure the strait indefinitely. I mean, do you see any way around that at this point?
I'm not going to hypothesize right here about the best way forward. I assume the president will outline for us what he sees the best way forward on Thursday.
You talk to officials. Are you expecting, when you're talking about something that's actually effective, whether what he goes with or not, when you talk to people,
yeah.
Isn't that your expectation? Because when I talk to our military experts, they say it includes boots on the ground. And I think we should talk to the American people about what's really expected here. Is that your understanding, or do you understand something different?
That's not what, obviously I can't discuss what I've been briefed on from a classified setting, but I'll just tell you.
Well, that's not what I'm asking.
What I believe, but strategic, if you're asking broadly speaking, strategically what I think is that you're going to have to be aggressive. And you're asking what does that specifically look like? I think the answer is what's going on right now is not working. And you can't expect Iran to just play ball, because they never have. Right? This has been their MO. And what they've done, even in the last weeks, is continue to develop their ballistic missiles, continue to try to be tougher, and to, instead of looking for a way forward, they keep upping the ante. So I think the bottom line is, given the fact that they're still there on the nuclear program, on their ballistic program, on their terror program, and now the straits, we're going to have to be aggressive, but that should be no surprise of who we're dealing with, of who they've attacked us, they've attacked our bases, attacked our allies. Just in recent days, they've attacked bases of our our bases in Gulf allied countries. So, the bottom line is you can't just allow that to happen. You got to respond and deal with it. And of course, we'll see what the commander-in-chief says in terms of specifics. But the bottom line is we can't just sit here.
We have some reporting that there's a White House elections task force looking through classified intelligence and various law enforcement documents to find evidence or irregularities in elections. Two officials with knowledge tell us that those documents are expected to be released within weeks. What do you think they're doing here, and what is your and other Democrats' plans to counter it?
So first, what they're doing here is we know their agenda. They've basically told us, and we've seen evidence of that. Donald Trump wants to try to delegitimize American elections. He's taken the election that he lost with his raid in Atlanta, in Georgia, and trying to say that my election, I won my election. We know that there are judges appointed by Democrats and Republicans who have all called that what it is. False, a lie, he is lost in court, but yet he's trying to build this case that not only try to further his lie that he was a winner of an election that he lost, but also to delegitimize American elections on the eve of Democrats regaining the House and the Senate, so he can try to press his case that even any loss that he faces was an illegitimate one. And that is spectacularly dangerous to our democracy. You see other nations' democracies unraveling because some petite autocrat has undermined safe, secure elections or the belief in the public for them. And then the second thing, what are we doing about it? Well, we're already having many emergency meetings to prepare for anything that he is doing to try to undermine our elections. We are already taking him to court and winning most of those cases. Americans should know that we have dragged him to court over and over again and won most of the cases, not all of them. So this is going to be a stress test to our democracy. And the one message voters need to get right now is this should make you more willing to go out and vote than less, more determined to show up to our polls. The answer to this is not surrendering to Donald Trump's what he wants, which is us to lose our faith in our democracy and our elections. The answer to this is more democracy, more engagement, and more involvement.
Living in post-truth America, I know all this, but just riddle me this. When Obama ran intelligence, the election was secure and Donald Trump won in 2016. When Biden ran the government and the intelligence, the election was secure and Trump ran in 2024. But when Donald Trump and all of his boobs were running U.S. national security, it got all effed up. Is that the theory?
I guess so. Nicole, we like to say that this administration is built on lies, but it's also built on really bad leftovers, because these claims they are making are bad leftovers that have been sifted through years ago. They are moldy and inedible now. These claims that they're going to try to make later this week, I expect them to cherry pick and selectively leak intelligence about Chinese interference.
Can I stop you, though? What document is going to show something that Donald Trump wouldn't have either stolen when he took, quote, national defense information to Mar-a-Lago in boxes that he then had flooded in the bay? Like, if he had it.
Okay, I could go on, and there's more in the war. We were going to do a complete for a couple more minutes, but it boggles my mind, and I think the White House has to answer, the White House staff, as I said this morning, why is MSNBC, David Rhodes, gets briefed, who's an assassin, a media assassin, hates President Trump. Why is he briefed by the White House? And now there's tweets out, I'll pull them up in a second, but says that President Trump is going to announce this on Thursday and talk about this on Thursday, right what you're hearing there, according to senior officials at the White House that were granted anonymity to talk about this topic. Why is the White House briefing MSNBC so they can frame this? Why was this delayed tonight and going to go Thursday so they can get so the White House staff and the intelligence community? Tell me how this happens. How does something that's been secret, close hold, working with the senior most people at this declassification program of John Solomon and Pulte, that has been, as the Brits call it, a close run thing, how does that... On MSNBC all afternoon now, they've been briefed. How does MSNBC get briefed? Fox not briefed. The Newsmax, they're not covering this right now. Real America's Voice is not briefed. Why are they briefed? So that they can frame it? You hear it right there. Today was disinformation, this morning with Rhodes. Now it's all moldy. It's going to be so moldy. It's called framing the narrative. Who at the White House is doing this? What members of the comm staff or others or in the intelligence community that thought it was a good thing and helped the nation move forward about stolen elections and voter integrity, which is at the top of President Trump's agenda? The top. What does he keep telling us? That the Save America Act is his number one legislative priority. It has to be passed. So just very simple question. Why is MSNBC already have this and they're framing the narrative? Why are they doing it? Who did it? We need names. We need names. And if you don't agree with what President Trump doing, why don't you just resign and go back to private life? Why are you trying to put the knife in? We're going to get to the bottom of it, and we're going to name names. This is some of the most important work that people around President Trump and President Trump have ever done. Let me reiterate, President Trump has said time and time and time and time and time again that the Save America Act is number one priority. His White House staff never made it a priority. They colluded with Thune and the Senate not to make it a priority. And if you need to see it in all its glory, just watch MSNBC this afternoon. Just watch it. They're already laying out the framing. They were going to be ahead of it tonight if it went tonight. On Thursday, absolutely revolting. Absolutely revolting. We're going to name names here. Oh, yes. We are going to name names. We're going to take a short commercial break. The Viceroy is going to join me in a second. The judiciary, it's not even so much the Senate, but the Judiciary Committee slot that was brought up by the unexpected death of Senator Lindsey Graham. Next with Mike Davis in the War Room.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Mike Davis, the Viceroy, joins us. Mike Davis, Senator Graham, they're going through, I think the president's recommended his sister take his place on an interim basis to fulfill the rest of his time. Other people are going to, I guess they're going to have a discussion about who's going to run. But there's needs right now. Talk to me about the Judiciary Committee and what is your recommendation, sir?
Well, the Judiciary Committee right now is broken down with 12 Republican slots and 10 Democrat slots. My former boss, Chairman Chuck Grassley, is the chairman through the end of this year, and then Senator Mike Lee will either be the chairman or the ranking member in the next Congress, depending on whether Republicans keep or lose the Senate. But we still need to fill Lindsey Graham's big shoes on the Senate Judiciary Committee. Right now, we have 11 Senate Republicans instead of 12, and I strongly recommend that the senators pick U.S. Senator Jim Banks from Indiana to fill the slot on the Judiciary Committee. He is a bold and fearless warrior. He's a lawyer. He grew up working class like Lindsey Graham. He is America first. He's MAGA. He's very pro-Trump. He's bold. He's fearless. We can't put wimps on the Senate Judiciary Committee. We're doing too many important things. Judicial confirmations. Todd Blanche's confirmation hearing is this Wednesday. We have the Save America Act, immigration, DEI, corporate power. There are so many big consequential issues going through the Senate Judiciary Committee, and someone like Jim Banks is the perfect person to go and continue the fight to carry on the baton from for Lindsey Graham.
How tough is the and by the way, there's a deep bench. There's Jim Banks, commander in the Navy. There's a deep bench of lawyers. The Judiciary Committee is a very prestigious committee, correct? And one of the reasons it's prestigious, it has a ton of power. What power does it have, sir?
Well, it's all legislation affecting our justice system, all legislation affecting big tech, for example, DEI, affirmative action, discrimination with corporations. It also has the confirmation power for judges, federal judges, if there are Supreme Court vacancies, lower federal courts, the Justice Department. It's an A committee in the Senate. It's a very powerful committee, and when you have a tight margin in the Senate, you want to make sure that you have the A team on the A committees, like the Senate Judiciary Committee.
And talk to me about Banks. Why is Banks? I mean, right now, what we need is fighters, right? We need people who are going to stay in the breach, because as you see from these leaks coming out of the White House now on this declassification, you're going to need people standing in the breach and take a lot of grief from our side of the football about what's being pursued. And judiciary's got so many things tied up with immigration, mass deportations. I mean, all the very thorniest issues come to judiciary by and by, and that's one of the reasons it's an A committee. So why is Banks, for this moment in time, why is Jim Banks the perfect fit?
Well, I remember after the Mar-a-Lago raid, it was a pretty dark time around President Trump, around Mar-a-Lago. And I remember the people who ran from President Trump, the rats scurrying off the ship. And I remember the people who ran to President Trump. And Jim Banks is one of the people who ran to President Trump. And he's always been by President Trump's side. And so that's why I am a big champion of Jim Banks. I went and spoke to his supporters at the Indiana Republican convention recently. This guy is a rising star. Like I said, he comes from a working class populist backgrounds like Lindsey Graham. He's he's the real deal. And so that's what we need, someone like Jim Banks on the Senate Judiciary Committee. We need people who go to Washington, D.C. to fight the swamp, to kill the reptiles, not to go adopt them.
The confirmation of Todd Blanche, how tough is that going to be? Are we going to hold people together to actually vote for this? Because the Democrats are lying in wait right here, and they're going to relitigate all of Trump's year and a half is going to be relitigated in this confirmation hearing, sir.
Yeah, Todd Blanche is going to be confirmed as the next Attorney General of the United States by August recess. The Article 3 project is going to make damn sure that happens, teaming up with the WarRoom Posse. Go to article3project.org and take action and contact both of your home state senators. Email, patch through phone calls, social media, Democrat and Republican. Steal the spines of the Republicans. Make the Democrat senators feel less sure-footed like we did during Ketanji Brown Jackson's confirmation. But the reason Todd Blanche is going to be confirmed is because he is qualified for the job. Every Senate Republican voted to confirm him as Deputy Attorney General. By statute, the Deputy Attorney General has almost every power as the Attorney General. He's done a great job as the Deputy Attorney General for almost 2 years. He's been the acting Attorney General for the last many months, and there's no reason that any Senate Republican would not vote for him after they all voted for him. Before we see dirty tricks out of the Democrats, we just saw a Democrat judge in Miami, Judge Kathleen Williams, just come out with a gratuitous lawless order, trying to trash Todd Blanche. You're seeing the headlines now. It's a judicial drive-by shooting by this lawless Miami Obama judge, this former federal public defender. This is the same Kathleen Williams who said that the Alligator Alley, sending illegal aliens, gangbangers, rapists, murderers, and other violent illegals to Alligator Alley in Florida, was somehow illegal because she tried to pull some obscure environmental law out of her hat. She got reversed by the 11th Circuit. This Kathleen Williams will get reversed again by the 11th Circuit on this last-minute judicial drive-by shooting of Todd Blanche before his confirmation hearing in 2 days. But her damage is already done. We're already seeing the headlines trashing Todd Blanche. It's lawless, it's partisan, but it's what you would expect from one of these Obama judges, these partisan hacks in judicial robes.
Yep. I've asked Jeff Clark to join us a little later in the next hour to go through some of these issues about how they're trying to trash him and the president before the confirmation hearing. Mike Davis, one more time, where do we go to the Article 3 project to get on top of the confirmation of Todd Blanche?
Article3project.org. Donate, follow us on social. Again, the WarRoom Posse superpower is action, action, action. Light up both of your home state senators right now. We make it very easy. Emails, social media post, patch through phone calls. It takes about 2 minutes. Please go do it and support Todd Blanche so he could be the next Attorney General by August recess.
Thank you, sir. And we'll take up your mission here to get Jim Banks on judiciary. I think it's a great idea. Very solid, a real fighter. Mike Davis, the Viceroy, thank you so much. Changing your schedule and coming on here at the spur of the moment. Appreciate you. I got Neil McCabe up at the White House. Neil, you want to give us a thumbnail sketch before we go to break of the status of the war? Things are heating up. Big league. What do you got?
Yeah, Steve, I think the most critical change in the war, obviously, that went extremely kinetic over the weekend, is that Central Command and U.S. forces are now going after economic targets which had been sort of off the table. And those are railheads and bridges and things of that sort. The idea was that you wanted to avoid the economic targets because they were part of financing the rebuilding of the new Iran. But that's now off the table. And you're also seeing them going after specific military targets that are critical to Iran trying to control the Strait of Hormuz. And that's the submarines, submarine facilities, and the bases up and down that coast, including two bases that are actually very close to the Pakistani border, which are part of the Gulf of Oman, that sort of guard the non-Iranian side of that eastern side of the strait. So very serious stuff going on right now, Steve, in the third Gulf War.
The third Gulf War. Oh my God, Neil, hang on for 1 second. I'm gonna come back to you as we get a little runway here. Also, President Trump announced, as we talked on Eric Bolling, that we're going to take responsibility now, since nobody else will step up and do it, to keep the Strait of Hormuz absolutely clear. But there's a little action item to incentivize the local Gulf Emirates and Saudi Arabia to get with the program, and that's going to be a 20% fee on top of everything. I think that might get some people's attention. We'll talk about that in a moment. Clearly, I'm quite upset this afternoon, as we should be. I don't know in what universe people think it's a good thing to brief MSNBC. MSNBC is the most vicious enemy of the President of the United States, the MAGA movement, and this constitutional republic. They are not good people. In fact, they're evil people. They do evil things. And somehow somebody thought it was a good idea to brief these people on, I think, classified information. You haven't heard any word of it coming from the War Room or Real America's Voice or Fox News or I think Newsmax or anybody. I just don't get it. Birch Gold, now more than ever, we're going to live in turbulent times, folks. You're not going to get away from that. This is called a fourth turning. Maybe now it's time for you to understand the correlation between a physical asset like gold and fiat currency like the dollar. Although it's the world's tallest midget, it is the backbone of the world's financial system. You'll get to understand all of that when you go to birchgold.com/Bannon and get End of the Dollar Empire. That's the hardback edition. Very hard to get these now, but it's all free online right now. 8 free installments and a ninth one coming. Talk to Philip Patrick and the team. Philip's going to spend a lot of time with me on Saturday. We're going to go all through this. Short break.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
I want to thank our sponsors, Patriot Mobile, 972-PATRIOT. Call right now. Get somebody with the East Texas accent and customer service that'll tell you why it's the best phone service, mobile service in the universe. Also a Christian company that backs your Christian principles through their actions. Jenny and Glenn Story, two of the best. If you want to have a prayer session, do it. They're ready. 972-PATRIOT. Do it today. Also, Birch Gold, an easier way maybe than going to the site is just take your phone out if you're near your phone and text Bannon, Bannon, at 989898. They have a handbook on investing in gold and precious metals in the age of Trump, not the era, the age of Trump. And you can get to Philip Patrick and the team and discuss this all with them, as I think you should, particularly now that it's imperative that you find out why. Gold is a hedge against times of financial turbulence, like it has been for thousands of years, not decades, not hundreds of years, thousands of years. So check it out today. Neil McCabe, CENTCOM just put out, this just dropped as we were in break, or just right before we were in break. At 4:45 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time today, U.S. Central Command began launching the third consecutive night of strikes against Iran at the Commander-in-Chief's direction. These strikes will continue imposing a heavy cost on Iranian forces and degrade their ability to attack innocent civilians and commercial shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. Now, you've got, that follows on a Truth Social that you have from the president. What does that say, Neil McCabe?
Yes, sir, Steve. Today at 10:16, the president posted on Truth Social. The Hormuz Strait is open and will remain open with or without Iran. We are reinstating the Iranian blockade, so named because it is only stopping the Iranian ships or customers from entering or leaving. All other countries will have fair and open use of the strait. The USA will be, from this point forward, known as the guardian of the Hormuz Strait, but as such, and as a matter of fairness, will be reimbursed at a rate of 20% for all cargo shipped for any and all costs necessary to do the job of providing safety and security to this very volatile section of the world. The process and formation will begin immediately. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump.
So I was talking this morning about how people had to
10-16.
start ponying up because it's $88 billion. I think the third bill that they're putting forward, the reconciliation bill, is a $350 billion. I think that even has more of defense spending in it. But right now, let's assume it's $100 billion for what the American people are out in this, as President Trump calls it, an excursion. What happens, and I said, hey, the Gulf Emirates got to start paying here. We're keeping Hormuz open for Europe and for the Gulf. It can't be on just not on the kids of the Americans. That burden in harm's way, as you well know. But somehow we can't go further than the debt. We can't, borrow more money from the Chinese Communist Party to pay for keeping the Strait open for Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Qatar. So what numbers did you come up with this? The 20% is basically a carried interest. He's taken a carried interest in each craft, both the big cargo crafts plus the VLCC server. The numbers alone of the VLCCs would be what?
All right, let me first say, Steve, I think it's illustrative that whenever the president speaks about the Panama Canal, the first thing he talks about is the 40,000 people who are killed building it. And the second thing he talks about is how much it was a profitable venture, the return on investment on the Panama Canal. And the third thing he'll say is that as soon as the Panamanians bought it for $1, they raised the rate significantly so they would make so much money off the Panama Canal. And I think this sort of speaks to what he's doing with the Strait of Hormuz. What you were talking about is the VLCC, which is the very large crude carrier, which is roughly 2 million barrels. So if you're at $80 a barrel, Brent closed today at 83. So if you're at $80 a barrel, that's 160 million. And so the toll would be 32 million. And under normal circumstances, you have probably 10 VLCCs passing through the Strait of Hormuz every day. And you could have 3,000 to 3,600 annually. And so you can see how that would add up, Steve.
And look, President Trump's not looking for a revenue source for the United States of America, although it is good to have partners or people that are going to share the cost here. He's also using this as a forcing function for the Gulf Emirates to get very focused with Oman and put this thing to bed, particularly if they want to have free navigation. It's just not going to come. They're not going to freeload off the United States anymore. So, and I think the situation is very complicated. But as you know, we've been a big advocate of economic warfare, and taking a little something for the effort is economic warfare. People have to get very focused over there that Uncle Sugar is just not going to hang around forever and run up $100 billion bills every quarter. We can't afford it. If you think about it, the war started, I don't know, a couple of months ago. Pete was up there 2 or 3 weeks ago at $88 billion. It's over $100 billion now. We don't have the luxury of $100 billion every quarter. That's another $400 billion on top of the other deficits. The first 9 months of the year, and I believe this is without the cost. It might include the cost, but I think it's without the cost, is $1.4 trillion. This is one of the things that Philip Patrick and I are going to discuss on Saturday. It's $1.4 trillion. And the rate right now, we're going to get to $2 trillion by the end of the fiscal year, or close to $2 trillion, as we've said. Also, put this in your pipe and smoke it. We're not going to have no appropriations bills. We're going to have another CR. They're going to come because they say we're out of time. We're out of time. They're spending so much time on the Save America Act, passing it because President Trump's made it its number one priority. They spent so much time on that they don't have time to do appropriations, so we're going to get another CR. Another CR is going to have baked into it these massive deficits. Scott Bessent's already got a huge burden with having to finance these now, and it's just going to be another burden on Treasury to go out and actually finance more. This is why we have to have people step up. If it's a 20% carried interest or a 20% fee on each ship, then so be it. The president's thought this through. His team has thought this through. And it sounds like now this is not going to be warmly embraced. First, it's not going to be warmly embraced by the Persians who think they're getting that vig, right? I think he's been pretty clear, Neil, to say, hey, look, we're gonna take this thing. We're gonna clean it up. We're gonna open it up. We don't need pirates down there, doing pirate things. You guys are out. We're in. The United States Navy is going to be there. And but it's not free. We're not gonna do this for free. You're gonna have to step up. I think that'll get everybody very focused. Neil McCabe, your thoughts?
I'll just say that Pompey the Great became Pompey the Great because he cleared out the pirates, and that's exactly what President Trump is doing. And then moving forward, right? If people have a problem with the 20% toll, I think that prompts a conversation, and maybe something can be worked out. But certainly the president is not going to stand there and watch it become an Iranian toll booth, Steve.
Neil McCabe, great reporting at the White House. Can you give your socials? So overnight, tonight, there was going to be this in Real America's Voice. We were all set for this. In fact, the great Eric Gruber is actually back in D.C. There was going to be a briefing tonight by the president on this topic of interference, but that got moved to Thursday. The president put it up a couple hours ago. So Thursday, we'll have a run up to Thursday. Now, of course, MSNBC somehow got briefed, and they're framing this right now. But we're going to have a lot of coverage on the run up to this from the White House and also from the War Room. And we'll get down and dirty on this. Neil McCabe, I want to thank you so much for sticking around late this afternoon and give us your assessment of the war. You call it the third Gulf War. President Trump, right now, CENTCOM, they're lighting them up again. This another night of attacks, and it looks like it's going to continue on, at least for until somebody gets back to the table, because the MOU seems to me be OBE, overcome by events. Neil McCabe, wherever you go for your socials.
Steve, you can find me on all the socials at Reporter McCabe. Good to be with you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Always. Can we play the clip from my favorite Nicole? You know how much I love Nicole Wallace. I love having her voice just kind of beep, 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 beep. Can we go ahead and play Nicole Wallace? Can we play it? Let's play it.
Donald Trump appears to be taking his assault on the truth and democracy in American elections to prime time. MS Now is now reporting that Trump will deliver an address Thursday evening where he plans to unveil another round of lies about why he lost in 2020 to Joe Biden. This time claiming that newly declassified reports reveal foreign interference in that election that his own government didn't know about at the time. Lies that seem to conveniently obscure that he was the president of the United States. All of his handpicked people ran every facet of the government in 2020. His handpicked Attorney General Bill Barr ran the Justice Department. His handpicked replacement for Jim Comey, Chris Wray, ran the FBI. Both of them have repeatedly and publicly debunked these lies that there was any foreign interference. Trump's address will take place in prime time. It is likely to mark the start of releases of so-called evidence that everyone that worked for him in 2020 couldn't find, as Donald Trump makes it abundantly clear that there's no lever of national security power that he will not exploit and pervert to undermine our faith in our elections and our democracy, including these essential national security agencies. MS Now has exclusive reporting that details Trump's plans to use our national security apparatus and turn it into a propaganda machine for his election lies. Quote, a new White House task force reviewing thousands of pages of classified...
Okay, guys, stop. Whoa. You heard her magic words. We have exclusive reporting. How does that work? White House, tell me how that works. This cuts to the core of who runs this country. Do some network of the intelligence services? Because I keep saying, I first got there, it's not a deep state. It's up in your grill every day, telling you we run things. You guys are just passing through. And they thought Trump was just passing. Remember, they tried to stop him from getting elected. Then once he was there, they created the Russiagate hoax to try to attempt to destroy his first term. Then with the Ukrainian, the Ukrainian lie to impeach him. Think about that. All of that in the first term. And when they couldn't do that, they then stole the 2020 election. And people knew this. And then he went to the years in the wilderness after being stolen. And maybe the Chinese Communist Party. Wow, that would be such a reach. Chinese Communist Party, let's see, the same guys that did the pandemic. Go back in time. You have to know the timeline here, and you have to know the history of it. In May of 2019, still the most important geopolitical month for geopolitics in this century, after working on it for 2 years, Lighthizer-Navarro, what we call the Lighthizer deal with Li He, was torn up and thrown in our face. Was torn up and thrown in our face. And they declared a people's war. And the next thing you know, Shazam, coming out of Wuhan, as we now know, was the pandemic to take down, to break the Trump administration, to break President Trump. At the same time, they're not leaving anything to chance because they got to get Trump out of there. Why? Trump is not a globalist. For the first time, the Chinese Communist Party had been held account, had been called out by Donald J. Trump. And now we're in this situation where you actually get a deep dive on it. And who's got exclusive reporting? Exclusive reporting from MSNBC. How does that work? Who gave him the exclusives? No, we want to know. In fact, we're going to know. We already kind of know, but we don't know. No. Short break.
And we're going to be discussing it, but in fact, I think we'll start discussing it right now before I sign. After that, we're going to be signing 2 documents that are close to 1.5 million acres each. And Governor, do you want to say a few words about what we're doing and explain it to the press?
Yeah, well, thank you, Mr. President. This is a big day for Utah. The president did something very similar several years ago during his first term. Of course, the monuments were re-expanded under the past administration, and this matters to Utah. We believe that under the Antiquities Act, it's very clear that that these monument designations are supposed to be the smallest area possible to protect the antiquities, and these multi-million acre monuments that are bigger than the state of Delaware certainly do not fit that designation. Now we definitely care about protecting these antiquities and will continue to do so. The problem is with these giant monument designations, there are no resources that come with those. We have 9 monuments in Utah. 7 of them are around 700 acres to 7,000 acres. That's what this was meant to be, not millions of acres as what happened with Grand Staircase Escalante and Bears Ears. And so we're grateful that the president has made a determination that we need to right-size these monuments. Again, this does not remove the other protections that already exist in those areas, just making the monuments more manageable so that we have the resources necessary to continue to protect these antiquities. I know we have the Deputy Secretary of the Department of Interior here with us. Kay, is there anything you'd like to add?
I'll just say the Antiquities Act is 120 years old, but the first monument that was created was only 1,200 acres. So if you think about it, since then, President Clinton, President Obama, and President Biden have increased the acreage in the state of Utah and locked those acres up. Over 3 million acres.
For nobody to use, right? You can't do anything. You can't go hunting. You can't go fishing. You can't do anything. You can virtually not even walk on it.
That's exactly right, sir. So you were remedying that.
I remember now. I do remember. I have a great memory.
And Mr. President, I know Senator
And this
Lee's
is actually better than the first thing. What we're doing.
It is better. Yeah, Senator Lee's been very involved, I know, in conversing with you.
Good. That's true. Mike?
Smallest area compatible with the objects to be protected. That's always been the standard under the Antiquities Act. President Biden, President Clinton, and President Obama overlooked that standard. President Trump is fixing it today.
Thanks, Mike. You had something to say. I thought that was very important.
Celeste.
Well, I think it's worth noting for the press in the room that both of these monuments were created over the unanimous opposition of Utah's federal delegation, our governors, the county commissioners, the locals who are worried about losing multiple uses on these federal lands. And we're standing here with the governor, the Speaker of the Utah House, the entire Utah federal delegation supporting a president listening to the people of Utah and saying, we know you value this land, you want it used for multiple use and not locked up. And so this is a very different process than how the monuments were created.
Well, they took the land away from the people, quite honestly. It was ridiculous. And I remember Orrin Hatch before he passed away. He was a great guy. He was a friend of mine, and he felt so strongly about this. And we signed, and then they terminated it after they got in office, which was crazy. And we're putting it back, but we're actually giving more than we did the first time back to the people of Utah. Please, go ahead.
Couldn't have said it better than Representative.
May I point something out? I think people don't understand. Utah is over 2/3 owned by the federal government. These counties where these monuments are at are over 90% federal land. When people make decisions about this 2,000 miles away, you can see how that steps on the local people who only control about 5 or 10% of the land with local government. So not only do you have all these dynamics, you have an economy. You can't pave roads, you can't build schools, you can't pay fire people, police department, because of this dynamic of 95% federal lands. The other part of that is Utahns will tell you they love these lands. They manage them better than people 2,000 miles away. So if this is about good management, it really should be done in Utah by people who have demonstrated over decades and decades and decades and generations that they're good managers of this land.
Great job. Well said. Anybody? No? You're leaving? I can't believe it.
Yeah, we're excited.
I can't believe it. You're excited? Where are you going from here?
Well, can I say this first of all? We sat down with the previous administration and said, then we'll just work this out. So we don't have to keep going back and forth. Just work with us.
Right.
And we promised if we didn't, that once we have the power, we're going to make sure the people's voices are heard. So thank you for helping us keep our promise.
My honor.
Unfortunately, the last administration did not understand that this would happen one day. So thank you so much.
Great honor. Let's sign. This is very nice. I'm very happy about this. And better than the first time. Okay, here's number one. Okay, number two. Here you go.
Thank you.
Almost 3 million acres. Going to be well taken care of now. Okay. Penn, who should I give this to? Maybe the governor's representative, right? And Mike, how about taking one, right?
Thank you.
So we've done something that was, I think, very desperately needed. It was very unfair to the people of Utah. And now fairness has been brought back. It's going to be better taken care of. And they'll be able to use it a little bit. So there's something very nice about that. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions about this, first of all, most importantly? Anybody want to talk about this?
I've got one.
Yeah, Jeff, go ahead.
I've got one on Iran too, but I'll start with this. Just you said that 70% of the land was federal. Was there any other way to turn this around? How is it that I guess my question is how did it get there if it's a state?
Go ahead. Do you want to discuss that, please?
The land ownership is what it is. But under the Antiquities Act, 120 years ago, Congress made the decision to give presidents the power to designate by executive proclamation certain land as monument. It was supposed to be the smallest area compatible with the objects to be protected in connection with that. Now, initially, as the Deputy Secretary of the Interior explained a minute ago, that meant a few hundred, maybe 1,000 or 2 acres at the most. These are 3 million acres. As I explained to President Biden, that's 2 Delawares. It's been abused, and so it was done by executive action. President Trump is right-sizing it to bring it in compliance with what the law says.
And Mr. President, just on Iran, you have said now to Congress that we are back at war. How long do you expect this to take, and what's the legal basis?
Take what? Take what?
The war.
Well, I think it's going very fast. We've demolished their military. We're hitting them very hard. We had a deal yesterday or the day before yesterday was all done, and then they broke up that deal immediately because they found out there was something in the deal they didn't like. And they're wired differently, and we're not going to put up with it. We are just going forward. We're attacking them tonight. We're taking out all of their capability for anything having to do with the Strait, with the Hormuz Strait. And I think in the end, we will end up discontrolling the whole thing. And what they're doing is being very foolish, very stupid, and they've treated people horribly. They've killed 52,000 protesters so far that we can determine. It might be more than that, but 52,000 protesters have been killed, and it's really a terrible situation. But we'll have it under control very quickly. Yeah. Please. Wait, please. Wait, Jeff.
I'm sorry.
Be nice. Be nice, Jeff. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Have to teach him to be nice.
Thank you, Mr. President. On your presidency, so a lot of us here actually witnessed a miracle 2 years ago today as we were on the ground covering your rally in Butler, Pennsylvania.
Right.
You said a lot of times that you believe that God has saved your life. Has there been a moment throughout your presidency so far where you thought this is why God kept you here?
Well, we're doing a lot. You know, we have a country that I use the expression "Make America Great Again," and we've done far more than anyone thought possible, including maybe even me. We've done things that are unreal. At $19.2 trillion, the money being invested in our country is more than any country has ever had by many times. We have trillions of dollars coming in because of the tariffs and the proper use of tariffs, because of all of the things. I think because of the election. November 5th was a very important day. When you look at the military, we have the strongest military in the world. We rebuilt it largely during my first term. We have recruitment now. We're setting records in recruitment. We had, if you go back to the campaign when I used to talk about it, the last administration, they couldn't recruit soldiers. We needed soldiers in every single branch of our military, and that included police and firemen. Nobody wanted to do anything having to do with the uniform in this country because they weren't proud of the country. And now the people are very, very proud to be an American. Our country is doing phenomenally well. We're respected all over the world. If I go, no matter where I go, we just got back from NATO, and I think you saw the response. It was like a very beautiful thing, actually. It was a total response, totally positive response. No matter where we go, we're respected again, maybe respected more than ever before. So I appreciate the question, but that's pretty much it.
Mr. President, thank you. Cameron Arkin with Town Hall. I was curious about there are reports about Iranian drones in Cuba. There are concerns about that. Where does the relationship with the U.S. stand there? Is military intervention still on the table there?
Well, if they do have that, and they might very well have that, we'll take care of it. Marco's just in the other room. And if they do have that, we'll take care of it in short order. We're not going to have a problem. We're not going to allow that to happen. So it could be that they're storing some. We're looking into it now. It could be so, and it maybe isn't. But we'll figure it out fast.
And what are you expected to speak about?